Now this is pretty funny and you can't make this stuff up. This morning I was scheduled for the first colonoscopy of the day. I go down. Of course, anybody at my age knows what that's all about. But anyway, the way this evolved is they prep you all up and they put the IV tubes in you and everything and you're all set to go. And the nurse, a nice young nurse, she says, "Oh, Mr. Ernowski, do you have somebody to drive you home?" And of course Karen doesn't drive anymore. I said, "Oh yeah, I'll drive myself home. What's the problem?" She said, "Oh, you can't drive for 24 hours. Well, I'll have my wife drive me then." Of course I drove home. And she says, "Then you have to rest today. You have to go. The best thing is, you know, to go home, have a little meal, and just sit on a couch and relax." So I figured I'd plan some work job out here using power tools, razor blades, and dynamite and nuclear material. Anyway, and she says it as casually as can be. She says, "Oh, now you be very careful. You know, don't you know, cut your toast with a sharp knife or anything today." What are these people thinking? What planet do they come from? That's the modern world, and that's why I love old motorcycles. And sometimes I feel like I live in a world that from another planet or something, some way some of these people think. Anyway, I drove myself home, didn't crash, parked the car, probably it's crooked in the driveway or something, but so what? So what I wanted to do, I wanted to share this today along with some other funny stories. The other day we had Aaron here working on his GS, and he told me a funny story I did not include on the video. I'm going to tell it right now, Aaron. Now this is a priceless story told by Aaron. If anybody has a GS or a similar bike, you know this is the filler plug to fill oil. Now he was riding with our good friend and 18 member Tim, and he said, I guess, you know, being young guys, you know, they're all smoking pot and who the hell knows what else. And they never, now if you notice, you can't even take this off by hand on my bike. I tighten it with a wrench. They left this loose. And of course on a ride, they're speeding down a highway and doing their stunt bike thing or whatever they're doing. And this thing came off. They lost it. And of course, because the clutch is here, it sprayed oil up all on Tim's leg. So poor Tim is all cooking with hot oil. And of course now it is probably half a quart less oil in the thing. So they stop the bike. They find an Ace Hardware store. And of course, what Ace Hardware store in the world is going to stock that plug? None, zero, nadia, nothing. So what they did, and actually it's very creative on Tim's part, he got a light bulb and put tape around and screwed a light bulb in there. Now when I questioned him about it, he said, no, it wasn't a light bulb. It was the thing like, I guess a three-way thing that you screw into a light bulb. And I was thinking, as crazy as that sounds, it sounds like something I might do in an emergency. But Tim, my hat's off to you, kid. You're my kind of guy. Now, I often think what makes the world of old motorcycles worthwhile is the people in it. Every one of them, including Aaron, including Tim, Luciano, everybody, Glenn, they have stories, and these stories are so true, and they're so funny. When you look back at them, the day they happen, they're not funny, but then a week later, you've got a great story to tell. So Jose called my house to see how the colonoscopy went, and in the course of doing it, he told me he was out with 3 other guys, and they were stopped on the side of the road, or they went on the side of the road. There was a bear, and I got to get him to tell a story on video. Apparently they stopped to look at the bear. I don't know what the hell they were thinking when they did that, and the bear chased one of his guys, one of his friends that's maybe a little on the overweight side, and he said, I never seen a fat guy run that fast. But I'm going to get Jose to tell that story on video, maybe this weekend. But our objective is simple. Whether we're making motorcycle parts, or just having fun, or just telling stories, or maybe even lying a little bit about what great riders we used to be, the world of motorcycling is full of great stories. And no great story would be complete without a couple of shovelfuls of fish food. Come on, guys. I gotta go have my coffee. Oh my God, they're hungry. I'm hungry. I'm ready. And I got a nice little project to fill in a day. It's raining today. It's supposed to rain all day. I got a nice little project to fill in today. And of course, with all the rain we've had lately, Karen's garden is just growing. My God, I wish we had a marijuana farm. We'd be rich. I could afford to buy a brand new bike. Okay, so the project that I have today, now what I did yesterday, I ordered the mirrors. I want to have the exact same set of mirrors, and I really do appreciate how well I can see out of the back. They're just like GS mirrors, and very similar anyway. And the mirrors that even like on the 650, they're a little bit lower. Now I know probably everybody out there is thinking, and I got Luciano's mirrors on here. They polished up nicely. Not sure. They're awkward to adjust because there isn't a ball joint up here, and I'm going to have to take a wrench with me and get them set when I actually get to do the next two-stroke day. But as opposed to these that have a ball joint, you can get them adjusted easier. But Luciano made a good point. He ordered some cheesy mirrors for his Ducati. He didn't want to pay $20, so he paid $9 for a set. And the ball joint is loose. So I bought the $20 ones. They probably would be better. Now, I noticed one thing. The stock mirrors that come on a GS, they're great. I wish I had a spare set of these. You know, exactly these. They're nice. They look nice. They match the overall look of the bike. These kind of match a modern sport bike, so I guess they're the way to go. And when I upgraded the mirrors on the 750, night and day better. So the last bike in the fleet here, in the collection, whatever it is, I'm going to definitely, it's going to be the same size mirror, but what's going to happen, because it's mounted out here, it'll be 3 to 4 inches further out than if I mounted it here. So that's the next upgrade. Here's the point that I wanted to make today. I ordered the mirrors. They usually take 2 to 3 days to come in. In the meantime, I've got a rainy day, a colonoscopy day that I can't really ride. And I really would never take a ride on a R1 today. That'd really be asking for trouble. But what I do have the choice to do, I want to make the little block-off plates. And I thought I'd share how I go about making them. I've made them for other bikes. I've made them for the FCR, polished them up. And you can buy them on the internet for 15 bucks or whatever. But, you know, there's nothing better than just being able to spend a rainy day making a part for a bike that when you're all done you can say, yeah, I made that. Now see, here's one thing that I have even given thought to. This bike has the things to put the mirrors in. There's only one problem. See, and this is a problem you always have to think through before you do this. As you turn the fairing, what's going to happen? There's going to be an interference here. I don't know that I could work around that or somehow, I don't know. But these upgraded mirrors, they worked out great. So I'm not real upset about that. But these are the best. And when you're riding this motorcycle, it's like you have eyes behind you. And I really do. Years ago, I didn't care. I never even looked in the mirror. Now, I spend a lot of time listening to the radar detector and listen. I don't know, maybe it's just me. Probably just being old. So on the R1, of course, because the bars are in a different position and the fairing is much lower, no problem at all taking care of that. They'll mount right up in that little spot. And what I'll probably do is mount them up before I paint them, take a ride, make sure I'm in love with them or whatever, that I want to marry them. And what I did, I thought was a smart thing, just in case. Because they're so cheap, they're 15 bucks a set, I ordered 2 sets. Now, think about this. $15 for one set and $9 shipping, or 2 sets and free shipping. So the second set only cost $6. Now, one of the things Aaron wanted to do on his GS, and probably will get to do it before the summer's out, is he wanted to take the bars off of the West Cooley bike, the Renthal bars, put them on his bike, and he has the hokiest set of mirrors on that bike I've ever seen. I don't know, they wouldn't work for me. Maybe they work for him, of course. He's a young guy, he's got better eyesight, and, well, whatever. More talent, I guess. But these bars work great on the West Cooley bike. So if they work, and he's real happy with them, that'll work out great. Another funny story, Aaron learned a good lesson about GS's. When he bought the GS, he saw on eBay the West Cooley fairing, the little one that belongs on a GS, and it was available, and he kind of hemmed and hawed and waited a month, and when he called the guy back, it was gone. But if he had that GS, he could have a West Cooley bike with the West Cooley fairing for one low price. So to make this little part up, there's just 2 10mm screws that basically hold the fairing to the mirror. Make sure this isn't going to be a problem. And by loosening these two screws up, this whole thing comes off. Relatively simple thing, but what I want to do is I want to show how I would make it, because relatively simple part to make. Now, if you look on the internet or on eBay or whatever, there's thousands of different things you can buy. I've seen them as much as $85 for a set of plates, and as low as $6. And I don't know what you get for $6 and what you get for $84, but I know if you make them yourself, they're going to be almost free, and almost free always works for me. I'm not sure why, but I can make a little pattern and then cut up the aluminum myself. The aluminum I get at Lowe's. It's no problem at all. It's going to be a relatively simple thing to do this, because what I'm going to do is use this piece. I can take this and just make a pattern for it. Now, one of the things to keep in mind whenever you buy aftermarket mirrors, you have some of these mirrors like these, that these two bolts aren't adjustable. Then you have another group that's very much, the mirrors actually look like they're made by the same, and they probably are made by the same company, but then one bolt slides farther back and forth. So what it allows you to do, and it's really nice that it does that, it'll fit more than one bike. These did not fit the R1, and I had to do a little machining on the part that holds this to the fairing. But now, where this goes through, I'm going to have to account for that, because that diameter is bigger than this when I make the pattern. So I'm going to have to, I may as well take the measuring tools downstairs, because the idea is to make a real nice pattern, exactly this shape or very similar to it, and then we'll find a piece of aluminum we can use to actually make the two pieces and polish them up. Now, here's the whole thing that makes this nice. We have a day I can't ride. I have a day now that by having these in stock, the day the mirrors come in, I could change the mirrors and these parts in a matter of 20 minutes. Then if I like the way everything worked out on the R1, then wait for another rainy day and paint the mirrors. It happened in the course of developing the camera mounts that I have all over these bikes. I have 2 or 3 on every bike. I made a lot of mounts, an awful lot of these. I made them all on video. There's probably 100 videos of making camera mounts. But I always save the old ones. Once I make a new one, I would save the old one. You never know when you're going to use it. And in this case, what I'm looking for is just a piece of aluminum. And it looks like this is probably going to be pretty close. Let's see where the mirror is. Nah, see, it's not big enough, so I'm going to have to cut these from scratch. So luckily I have some stock downstairs. A lot of times I can use up this old stuff because it's already polished up. That's the nice part. But in this case, we don't have a piece. But anyway, we will, oh, here's a piece maybe. I'm not sure. No, it's not wide enough. Okay, so we have to go, and if we don't have a piece downstairs, I'll have to run over to Lowe's and buy one. Now, in my shop, I always have a bucket where I throw any scrap material I think there's any chance at all I can use in the future. And I've got some 1/4 inch and some 3/8, some 1/8. The idea here would be to find a piece that's just the thinnest possible. 1/8 inch would be fine if I can find a nice clean piece of 1/8 inch. So step one is, needless to say, make up a little cardboard pattern. Before I can make up the pattern, I've got to be able to basically drill the holes on center. I can do that by hand even, since this is not a super ultra precision job. We just need these holes to be that dimension. Then we can press that on in place and trace around here and get a real nice accurate pattern. Now I know there's a counterpoint to this, but I always think one of the mistakes you make in life is when you don't allocate time or resources accurately. Now, because I worked in a job for 18.5 years, in fact, efficiency, it was an efficiency type of thing. So I never want to spend more time doing something that doesn't matter. I want to spend time doing what matters. An example is, if I'm going to buff out a bike, I want to buff the parts that I see, not the bottom of the oil pan. Well, in this case, having this pattern is going to allow me to cut these parts out of aluminum with very little effort. But I could, if I had a machine shop, I could use a milling machine and get everything all, it gets out of control right away. what I really want to do is spend the time on this is the side that I'm going to see. I want to buff it out to where it's very, very nice looking and have the bolt heads polished. Okay, now for the sake of the pattern, we needed to have these holes the size of this little ridge, but when we actually drill the holes, I only need that diameter, so that becomes a whole nother issue. I want these to be a tight fit, a press fit. Let me just see if I've got this opened up enough. If not, I'll just run over and open it up a little more. See, I tried to make this such a tight fit. All right, I just have to see. I went on the underside of the line. I'll open this up a little more just so it can just drop right on, because I don't want this moving around. I want this fit. When I put it on that part, I want it to be relatively tight so I can get a nice layout of the part. You can see what we're trying to do is just go to the pen line, and that'll probably be the next step on a step drill. Okay, now we should have a nice press fit. And of course, the good news is if you make a mistake on the tight side, you run a drill through it, or a piece of sandpaper. When you make it too big, you start and you make another pattern. So that's what I wanted, was that it snaps right on, and now I can get, while I'm holding this, and the reason for this is this part has put a very slight indentation into the paint, and if I make it too small or too big, well, and I've got to remember that there's a pair. They're not, when I polish them, I want to polish the side that I'm going to see, that whole efficiency thing again. Okay, so I have this by using this, and if I leave the pen line on the pattern, and I cut that out with scissors and leave the pen line on, and I should have a really nice accurate pattern. So now I know I have an accurate pattern. Now here's another thing. In my box of scrap, I had some of these pieces that are 3 feet, 2 feet. I always try to use the smallest piece possible. The same way when I have bolts. I always buy bolts that are longer than I need. And when I'm going to cut a short bolt, you cut the shortest bolt you have to that size, not the longest one. It's an efficiency thing. A lot of people don't understand efficiency for whatever reason. Not important. I don't know how to cook, but I do know about efficiency. And I do know how to have a lot of fun with motorcycles. And I still can ride a little bit, but not that much. It's drifting away day by day, but the real fun of I always think the friends and the stories, and like, I don't know how you could put that in a bottle. People that miss that, I don't know. Okay, so we want to get the two pieces out of this. This end is already cut, because this is going to have to be a over on the Dremel saw. Now these holes do not they will get to be the smaller diameter for the smaller bolts. And now I know what the centers of those bolts have to be. So when I lay this out, I can lay it out very accurately for the centers. Famous last words. Okay, now what I'm going to do is cut the first piece out, then use the first piece as a pattern for the second piece. And that's a nice tight fit. It's not going to rattle around. So here's a way I do it, I always do, is I always would like to drill the holes before I cut the part. Because once I cut the part, it's really hard to hold it and drill the holes. Right here I have the handle on it, so it's really easy to do that. And this worked out, just couldn't have been any better. Perfect. Now with one piece roughed out with the saw, and then I grind the edge, but I leave the pen line on. I always want to be on the plus side of everything. So I can always take a little more off. I can always open up the holes, but once they're too big, I'm married to it. So now what I want to do with this is pretty simple from this point on. I want to put this part up here. And what I'm going to do is drill the 2 holes using this as the pattern, since I know these already work. I can just hold this together and spot my 2 holes. Then once I have the 2 holes, trim around it, saw the edge off, grind the edge off, and I'll have my 2 pieces that I'll be ready for the polishing operation. And the polishing operation on this, I have to make sure I polish one left and one right. Anybody that's a modeler knows how you make 2 parts and you need one left and one right. It's a common thing in modeling to do that. I've done it myself. But this is always a good thing. Once I know these holes line up perfectly, use this for my jig. This is the easiest way I know to do this. I've drilled the first hole. Make sure I have plenty of room on the part. I've got that lined up. I can clamp it anywhere, actually. Just double check that I have my 2 in a row. Okay, that's held together. And this ensures, it's a big thing too, it ensures that our holes are going to line right up with the 2 holes in the fairing support. Now I always think there's an awful lot of things in life, and I know that's true, that if somebody gives you a clue how to do it, saves you a lot of time and effort. I'll give you a good example. Installing carpeting. When I worked with John DeTavio installing carpeting, right away he showed me some of the tricks to avoid breaking your back and save your knees and whatever. And I've done a lot of carpeting in my own house even. I always appreciate knowing those tips. Now I know we have the holes lined up. I've got to cut this out, just a repeat thing, and then get ready to polish them up. Now the next step is to figure out if any one of the sides has a big scratch in it, and polish the other side. Now these don't look too bad. This side looks like the best. We always would want to pick, this has got a gouge here and not there. So these will be the 2 sides that we polish. We'll radius off all the edges, and these will be good to go. Now I always like to countersink the holes just to take that rough edge off. And when you're polishing, if there's a rough razor edge here, it catches on the wheel and it just makes polishing. Tears up your wheel for nothing. Takes 1 second to do this, and it gives you a much nicer product, much nicer part. Now this wheel, this is the soft wheel. This will just get some of the sanding marks out when we trued up the edge. Just make the polishing just a little easier. And then what I'll do with the whole part is break the edge on both sides. I don't want any sharp edges before I go to polish. Next step on this is 2000 grit paper, 2500, just to get some of the tooling scratches out. And we're ready to buff it. Now with the buffing, I usually like to use the black compound first, and then the red, and then the white, and usually at the end of it, I have a pretty nicely polished piece. But again, I don't think that's critical. Most of the time, most people just do it with the red compound, and they get a really nice result too. This is always important to get out the scratches before you go to the buffing wheel, or what happens, you wind up spending a whole day over on the buffing wheel. You can do what's happening now. I'm getting out, removing material to get the scratches out at a lot faster of a rate than if I were over at the buffing wheel. This would be just going on for quite a long time. It's just, again, just a thing of efficiency. Okay, the last thing for our part is a little bit of flitz. The flitz really doesn't make it any shinier. Well, maybe it makes it a little bit shinier, but what it does do gives it some protection. And of course we do ride in the rain and in the snow, whatever. Bird poops, whatever. But let's see if we can get this finalized. And it did. Because this soft aluminum that you get at Lowe's is not, I wouldn't use it for airplane wings or anything. It's not structural, but it polishes up beautifully. Not sure you can see the shine on that, but that did come out nice. What this means is the day the mirrors come in, we'll be ready to mount them right up in a matter of minutes. Nice little rainy day colonoscopy day project. It worked out pretty well. Actually, all that's left is to button this up, because tomorrow is slated to be a riding day. We're supposed to, according to the weather, the rain is gone. We're going to have 3 days of riding in a row. That'll be really nice. Better than 3 days of colonoscopies in a row. Anyway, having this little, we're one step ahead, and I really can't wait to see how the higher mirrors are going to work for me. It may be unique to me, but I really do like the way these all these mirror projects, every one of them has worked out great. The day ends with a nice little project in the bank, and hopefully the weather will be nicer later. Hope it's given you some ideas of, you can always buy them. Nobody ever hates you for buying them, but if you like to make your own parts, and I do, and I always like to be able to say to people when they ask me, where'd you get that? Well, I made it. Well, that's just me. So anyway, the next thing on this project is we are trying to get the steel brake lines for the FZRs. There's a couple other little parts that I wanted to get for that. All of the little projects we've had lately, the levers worked out great. I think these mirrors are going to be a monster upgrade, because as I ride that bike and then I ride this one, just looking down at the mirror, when you can look, well, again, it's just me, and everything with motorcycles, every single part of it is personal preference anyway. It's what you like, blondes or brunettes, or Yamahas, or FZ, who knows what. There's somebody likes everything, and that's a great way to have it. It makes all our bike get-togethers more fun. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the video, and thanks for watching.